Guys, welcome back to my channel. So it's been a long time. I've not created any video, so I'm back with another tutorial session. So this time I'm picking up dynamic programming. So why? What's the reason behind dynamic programming? So because I've got multiple requests from students that they are not able to understand what is dynamic programming, and basically, so they just generally cram like there are two types of dynamic programming. You can solve questions using memorization or tabulation, and then it's one is the top down, and one is the bottom up, and so on. So this is not how you should understand dynamic programming. Rather, you should basically take an example and understand like how to solve that problem. Think about it, solving that problem yourself, and then you'll yourself understand then that what exactly is dynamic programming. So I'll take the very common example which is being taken by any other tutor. So that's Fibonacci series. So I'll basically take that example, understand how to solve that problem. So in this video, I'll not be taking any jargon. I'll not be telling you solve it using memorization or tabulation or any sort of things. So you can be completely newbie. This video will After this video, you'll be able to understand exactly what is dynamic programming, what are different types, without even knowing it now. So you can be completely new to this coding, and then you should be able to very well understand what exactly is dynamic programming, and then so just listen to me one thing. So the thing is, dynamic programming is nothing. So it's very simple. If you know dynamic programming, then it's very simple to solve very tough questions. And if you don't understand it properly, then it becomes very difficult for you. So I'll try to keep this video very simple so that anyone can understand it. And once you are able to understand it very well, then you should be able to solve questions very easily. So I'll try to create not just one but two three videos. This one being the first one, and with the very basic, where I'll be just explaining sort of things, and then subsequent videos I'll be taking certain questions, different types of questions which are being asked from dynamic programming, so that you can relate to that questions and solve any kind of question which being asked to you in the interview. And also in this video, in the end, I'll explain you where like what sort of questions you need to apply dynamic programming, and how and why. So let's get started. We should not waste much time here. So I'll be taking the same example, which I told, that is Fibonacci series. So let's start with what is Fibonacci series. So it's essentially the first. It's essentially the first element is zero, and then it's one, and then any new element is the sum of previous two elements. So zero plus one is one, then one plus one is two, then two plus one is three, and then the last sum of last one is five, and then eight, and so on. So essentially, this is the Fibonacci series, and you can very well write the formula for it. So it's essentially Fn is equals to Fn minus 1 plus Fn minus 2, because Fn minus 2. So because any element in the Fibonacci series is the sum of last two elements. So if we have to find the value of Fn, it's just Fn minus 1 plus Fn minus 2. So looks simple, right? So we can very easily write a small recursive function to calculate to find any nth Fibonacci number. And I am assuming you can write simple recursion functions. So not talking very advanced recursive functions, but it's very simple. So let's just write it right away. So let's move it. Okay. So function will look like, it will return an int and then function name, and then it will take an n for which we want to find. So what's the base case? So as I told you that f0 is equals to 0 and f1 is equals to 1, starting two elements. So we can take it as a base case that, let's say, if n is less than or equals to 1, which is 0 and 1, what do we need to return? It's basically equal to n only, because if fn, basically f0 is equals to 0, which means if n is equals to 0, f0 is 0, and similarly for 1, so if f1 is 1. So this is a base case, and then if n is greater than or equals to 2, in that case what we'll do, we'll just uh, find the sum of fn minus 1 plus fn minus 2 and return that. So it will be written f of n minus 1 plus f of n minus 2, just that. So this is a very simple recursive function. So, so why do we need a tutorial to explain Fibonacci? It's simple, right? Yes, it's simple to write the function, but you'll realize this is very slow. Why slow? Let's see. So first, let's find the time complexity of this function. So to find that complexity, let's see how much work this function is doing. So basically, this statements for the base case, they are doing just constant work, comparing n and then just returning it. So it's just constant work. And then here, what we are doing? So we are making two recursive function calls. So if we are able to find the total number of function calls we are making for any n, we can just very find the time the total overall time complexity. So just we just need to find the what's the number of function calls. So okay, let's draw the recurrence tree for that. So I'll just move it separately, and then we can draw the recurrence tree. So what exactly happening is, so for fn we are calling it n, we are calling n minus 1, and then we are calling n minus 2. Next, for n minus 1, what we'll call n minus 2, and then n minus 3. Similarly, for n minus 2, what we'll be calling n minus 3 and n minus 4. And likewise again, for n minus 2 it will be n minus 3, n minus 4, then n minus 3 will be n minus 4, n minus 5. Similarly here too, and here too. So each call will be generating two sub child, basically. So let's calculate the total number of calls we are making. So the first level it is 1, at the next level it is 2, then it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So essentially, in the last level, how many calls it will be? It will be 2 is to power n, because we are it's exponential. So you can see that we are making exponential call. So you may debate with me here like that, does this tree being left biased? And if you go into more details and technicalities, you can check that this tree will be left biased and there will be less number of right nodes. So the total number of nodes at the last level will not be exactly 2 is to power n, but it will be less than that, but still it will be exponential. So let's not deep dive into that, because you are not required to know that. You can just assume and see that it will be of exponential order, and you know that exponential order solutions are very slow. So now, what can we do to improve the solution? So till now we have not talked about dynamic programming or any of its concepts, but we are just thinking out loud to how to solve this problem, and we'll be following the same throughout the entire video. We'll not be going into details of technicalities of dynamic programming. So let's see. Okay, so n is calling n minus 1, and then n minus 2, and so on, so on. Let's see why the time taken is exponential, because there are a lot of function calls. So what we need to do, we need to reduce the number of function calls. And how we can do? So you can see a pattern here. Let me just change the color. Okay, yeah, that's what. So basically what's happening is, this n minus 2, how many times it's being called? So it's being called here, it's being called here. Now let's see about n minus 3. So n minus 3 is here, then n minus 3 is here, and then n minus 3 is here. So what we are doing is, once we have calculated n minus 2 here, we again calculate n minus 2 when we are here. And similarly for n minus 3, at this point we calculate n minus 3, but then again when we are here, we are again calculating n minus 3. So this is very bad coding practice. So whenever if we have calculated something, we don't need to calculate it all over it again. So because that's just waste of time. When we have already calculated something, we know the value of something. Why we should calculate it again and again? It's very bad coding practice, and they should be avoided anywhere, not just like in these data structures programs, but anywhere, like any coding application you are you doing for any application, you should not repeat this. So what's the solution? Like what's the solution that comes to your mind right away? Simple, right? If you don't need to calculate it again, what you need to do, you need to store it. So simple, we just, whenever we are calculating the value, we just store it. Simple. So that's what we are going to do next. Let's first modify the function we wrote, and then we'll be basically checking what's the new time complexity for this. So let me just rub it. Okay, and then we can move back. Yes. Yes. So what we can do is basically we can declare an array, or maybe we can take an array in the input function, whatever, however you may like. So that depends if you're in Java or C++. Uh, that's your choice. I'll leave it to you. So basically, I'm first clarifying your concepts. Then we'll in the subsequent video we'll go more into coding practice, like how we should pass into function, what should be naming convention, and so on. But here, just focus on the concepts rather than coding practices. So basically, what you will be doing here is, so before basically this base conditions remains the same, but here what you need to do is you need to first check if that function call, that fn, is already calculated or not. So what you will be doing is here is, so what how you can do that. So you can take an initial input array which is initialized with all zeros. So what you need to check is, so if I'm saying array name is array, if array of n is greater than 0, which means we have calculated this value, because initially all the elements, all of them are 0. And if it's not 0, that means we have already calculated it and we have put it in the array. So it's if array is input array is greater than 0, then we'll just return the array of n. And if it's not, then what we'll do, so basically then we'll be calculating this. So what we'll do, we'll be saying int result is equals to fn minus 1 plus fn minus 2. And then what we'll do, so because since we have calculated a new value for fn, so now we'll store it. So we'll store array of n is equals to result, and then we'll return the result. So this is the new thing we are doing. So what essentially we are doing is, so before calculating this fn minus 1, fn minus 2, we are checking if we have already calculated it. If we have already calculated it, we are not calculating it again. We are just returning it. And if we have not calculated it, we are calculating it and storing it, so that any further recurrence of this function call should not be calculated again. So that's the core concept. Now let's see what's the time complexity. So how much time complexity we have reduced. Let's check that right away. Okay, so same for, we have n, then we have n minus 1, then we have n minus 2, then we have n minus 3, and so on. We'll be having 3, 2, 1. So we uh, basically, or you can say 2, 1, and 1 and 0. So we know the base, these are the base conditions 1 and 0. So we'll be returning their values, then we'll be calculating some of these value, and then we'll be returning it here. So now what essentially is doing, so it will be basically n minus 2. So now since we have calculated n minus 2, next will be at n minus 4. So we now need to calculate n minus 4. Sorry, so it will be basically n minus 4, since here and n minus 5 here. And before calculating n minus 4, we would have already calculated n minus 5. So essentially what when we are returning the value of n minus 4 here, and we need to calculate n minus 5 again, we have already calculated it. So this right node will not have these two childs. It will not have these two childs. It will just return the value because it's already stored. So any right node will not be subdivided into sub problems. Again, now n minus 3 is calculated, we are sending its value upwards. So this n minus 2, n minus 3 is returned, then for n minus 2 we will be calling n minus 4, which is already calculated again. So this right node will not have two childs, it will just return the value. Again, it will call n minus 3, n minus 3 is already calculated, will not calculate it again, will just return. So all these right nodes will not be having these two childs. So essentially what we are doing is, we are making two n calls, which is from n to n minus 1 to n minus 2 up till 1. And then for every right node we'll have just one call. So essentially we are making 2n call, which reduces the time complexity to on. So initially, earlier, the complexity was 2 is to bar n, which is exponential, and you know how slow the exponential complexity is. And now we have reduced it to on, linear, which is very fast. So this is the magic of storing the result we have already calculated. So you knew the problem in the solution was, so we were making multiple function calls. And how were we able to reduce the function calls? We are just storing the result of function calls, and then we are not calling them multiple times. Like fn minus 2 was getting, let's say it was getting called 4 times, so it's now reduced to 1. So we have reduced 3 function calls. So that's how we are reducing function calls for all the function calls. So now let's check how it's being done. So let's see how the values are being filled in the array, the additional array which we are using. Let's see how the values are being stored in that. Okay. Okay. So this is our yeah. So this is our extra input array which we have used, extra space array. Now it will have n elements. So what we are making is, for n we are calling n minus 1, then n minus 2, then n minus 3, then n minus 4, and so on. And then when we have at the base case, which is 0 and 1, then we start returning values from base case, and then it gets computed all over again. So basically what's happening is, so to calculate the value of fn, Fibonacci number n, we are going all the way down to 1, and then again computing it backwards. So don't you see, like, this is a, we can like improve it further, because this we can avoid this chain, right? Because essentially what we are doing is, we are just like finding values from this chain, like from the starting and then going there. Why do we need to start from n and basically move to 1? Because that's of no use. We can easily reduce this chain and then just start from here, like from the first element, and then compute this, then compute this, then compute this, and then finally compute n. So why we need to come from the n until 0 and then again calculate back? So we can reduce this chain and basically start from the very first element. Let's see how we can code that. So I'll just remove it. Yeah. So what we can do is, we can again create a function, the Fibonacci function. So we're returning int, then Fibonacci, then taking n. Now what we can do is, we can declare an array input array, which is of size n plus 1. Why n plus 1? Because it starts from 0, have until n, because we need to find array function fn. So we need to have n plus 1 elements. So now what we know is, so we know that array of 0 is 0, array of 1 is 1. Now how we can use it? So since we know that the next element is sum of previous two elements, so what we can do, we can just create a for loop starting from 2, because we know from 1 and 2, and array less than equals to n, because we need to find n. So that's why n less than equals to n, and size is n plus 1. That's okay. Simple array plus 1. And then what we need to do is, array of uh, I. Array of I is equals to array of I minus 1 plus array of I minus 2. So we should, since we are starting from I equals to 2, so this, if I is equal to 2, 2 minus 2 is 0. So array index will never become negative. So that's, you don't need to worry about it. So simply you can run this for loop, and then in the end you just need to return array of n, which is your Fibonacci number n. Simple. So here what we are doing is, we are storing in the array from here only. So from the first element, we first put the array 0 as 0, then we put array 1 as 1. Then now from here we are calculating for 2. So this is what 0 plus 1, which is 1. Again for 3, it will run for 3. So 3 is 2 plus 1, 1 plus 1. Basically this 2 plus 3. So the sum of last two numbers, 1 plus 1, 2. Then 1 plus 2, 3. Then 3 plus 2, 5. So we are storing now the values in just this order. So it reduces the number of function calls. So now we just set n. So this is the another way of approaching this problem. Now, till now, just tell me, like, did I use any jargon for dynamic programming, like memoization, tabulation, top down, bottom up? No, right? So this was simple. So these all are logical concepts. So I just explained you why the first way, why the second way, and now let's relate them with dynamic programming, because at the end the motive is to explain you dynamic programming. So okay, let me just explain you what thing was what. So now let's see. So basically, what essentially is dynamic programming? There are two ways to solve using dynamic programming. Before that, let's first see what kind of problems are we solving. So what how was Fibonacci's numbers problem? So basically, what there was a problem which is finding the Fibonacci number n. What we did, we broke the problem into two sub problems, which is finding Fibonacci number n minus 1, finding Fibonacci number n minus 2. So we had a problem. We broke down the problem into sub problems, and then we further reduced the number of function calls. We were storing these values. So if we have something of this type, wherein we can break up problems, sub problems, and then solve the sub problems, and then after solving the sub problems, we can use the answer of these sub problems to find the final answer. So in these types of problem, you can easily use dynamic programming. Now, let me explain you what was the first type of solving and what's the second type. So initially we what we did is we used recursion, and then basically we were going from last to first and then this. So what we are doing is we are uh, we are basically storing the value. So the first way is memoization. So we were initially storing the function calls and then using that to calculate the further calls. Next is tabulation. Why tabulation? In the next in the second solution which we did, we were what we were doing is we were starting from the zeroth element and then finding this. So basically we were doing the tabulation form. So f0, then f1, then f2, then f3. So we are going from bottom to up. So these are the two types, and I hope now it's very clear to you what's memoization, what's tabulation, and why the one is called bottoms up, why the other one is called top down. And so you should not start from these type memoization and understand what's memoization, but rather understand how to solve the problem without knowing about it. So this is the way we like took. So basically we solved the Fibonacci series without actually knowing that something like memoization or tabulation exists. We just solved it logically. Like that solution was logical, right? What was the problem? So we were having multiple function calls for the same value. So what we can do, we can just store it. So that's logical. So that's memoization. Second one, so we were in the first one we were going all the way from left to right to left, and then again left to right. So why go that way? You can just start from the left to right. So that's what is tabulation. So I think you have a better understanding of these concepts now, and I'll meet you in the next video where we'll be taking a like commonly asked dynamic programming question, and we'll be solving that using these techniques which I explained you. So let's meet in the next video. All the best.